There's a pattern hidden inside your skull, right now. As you hear these words, your brain is translating invisible electrical signals into what you call reality. But here's what neuroscience just discovered, and what Thoth carved into stone 5,000 years ago. Your brain doesn't decode reality, it encodes it, using geometry, the same pattern the Egyptians called the seed of life. 7 circles orbiting an eighth. You thought it was ancient art. It's a schematic. The exact sequence your consciousness uses to collapse formless potential into material experience. But there's a reason you've only been taught 7 Hermetic laws, because the 8th one, the one Thoth hid inside the circle no one was meant to see, doesn't teach you how to obey universal principles. It teaches you how to become one, and your nervous system is already using it, right now. You just don't know you are. But before I show you which law they erased, you need to understand something strange about circles. Something the mystery schools discovered that mathematics still can't solve, because that's where the architecture of consciousness begins. Let me ask you something. What are you looking at right now? You might say a screen, light, colors, shapes, but that's not what's actually happening. What you're experiencing is electrochemical translation. Photons hit your retina. Rods and cones fire. Electrical impulses race down the optic nerve, and somewhere in the visual cortex, your brain assembles those signals into what you call seeing. But here's the thing. Light has no color. Color is an invention of your nervous system. The wavelength we call red isn't red until your brain says it is. The same is true for sound, for touch, for taste. None of it exists out there the way you think it does. Your brain is generating the entirety of your sensory experience, in real time. Every single moment. Now most people hear this and think it's just neuroscience trivia. Interesting but irrelevant. But Thoth understood what this really means. If your brain is constructing your experience of reality, then reality, your reality, is not fixed. It's being rendered, moment by moment, according to a code. And that code is geometry. Sacred geometry. You've seen it everywhere. The flower of life, tattooed on forearms in coffee shops. The seed of life, printed on yoga mats. Metatron's cube on spiritual Instagram accounts. And you've probably been told the standard story. These are universal patterns. They appear in nature, in flowers, in galaxies, in DNA. Which is true, but it's the exoteric teaching, the external one, the one for tourists, because the real teaching, the esoteric one, isn't about patterns in flowers. It's about the pattern inside you, the one your brain uses to turn thought into form, consciousness into matter, the invisible into the visible. And Thoth encoded that entire process into a single symbol, the seed of life. Now here's what almost no one realizes. The name isn't poetic, it's functional. A seed is potential compressed into form. You plant it in darkness, in soil, in the unseen. And if conditions are right, it germinates. It pushes through layers of earth, rises toward light, and unfolds into something visible, a flower, a tree, a living structure. The seed of life is describing that exact process, but not for plants. 4 thoughts. Thoth taught that consciousness operates like a seed. It begins as something subtle, formless, mental, an idea, an image, a desire. And if you align with certain laws represented by the circles, that seed germinates. It moves through layers of reality, from mental to emotional to physical, and it manifests. But here's where it gets interesting. Most spiritual teachings stop at 7 laws, the 7 Hermetic principles: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. You can find them in the Kybalion, in every occult textbook, and they work. People use them to manifest all the time. But there's an 8th circle in the seed of life, and an 8th law that was deliberately excluded when the Hermetic principles were compiled. Why? Because the first 7 teach you how to create within the system. They give you the rules, follow them, get results. But the 8th law teaches something far more dangerous: how to step outside the system, how to stop obeying laws and start embodying them. But before we get there, you need to understand what a circle actually represents. In the Egyptian mystery schools, A circle symbolized something invisible, a force, a law, a spiritual principle. And there's a mathematical reason for this. The area of a circle cannot be calculated exactly. You use pi, 3.14159. It goes on forever, never resolves, never ends. You can approximate it, but you can never know its true value. And to Thoth that was perfect, because it mirrored the nature of consciousness itself, invisible, unmeasurable, infinite. So when you see 8 circles in the seed of life, you're not looking at decoration. You're looking at 8 forces, 8 laws that govern how the formless becomes form, and whether you know it or not, your brain is using them right now. Let's talk about the 7 you've heard of, but not the way you learned them. Because these aren't abstract universal principles, they're operational laws of your own consciousness. First law, mentalism, all is mind. Most people learn this and think, oh, the universe is mental, cool, and they move on. But what Thoth meant was far more direct. Every physical object in your life began as a thought. The chair you're sitting on, the phone in your hand, the building around you. Someone thought it before it existed, and that includes your life, your relationships, your health, your bank account. All of it started in the mental dimension, which means if you want to change your reality, you don't start with actions. You start there, in mind. Mentalism is the outer circle, the one that contains all the others, because every other law operates within mental space. Second law, vibration. Everything vibrates, nothing rests. And here's where most people miss it. They think vibration refers to atoms, to matter, to sound waves. But remember, we're talking about laws of consciousness. Vibration in this context refers to thought. Every thought carries a specific frequency, the intensity behind it, the emotion, the clarity, the focus. All of that affects its vibration, and thoughts of similar vibration attract each other. Thoth taught that there's a field around you right now, the mental plane, an infinite cloud of every thought that could ever be thought. When you think about something, your mind vibrates at a specific frequency, and that frequency resonates with similar thoughts in that field. If you think pencil, you access the pocket of thought related to pencils, eraser, paper, drawing, writing, everything vibrating at that frequency. This is how ideas come to you. You don't create them from nothing. You tune in, like a radio. Your focus determines the station. Third law, correspondence. As above, so below. This one's famous. Everyone knows it, but let me tell you what it really means. Everything in your external reality is a direct reflection of your internal state. Your friends, mirror of your consciousness. Your job, crystallization of your beliefs about value and contribution. Your home, projection of your mental environment. This isn't metaphor, it's mechanics. Thoth said, above is the mental realm, below is the physical. Change what's above, your mind, and what's below must correspond. It has no choice. This is why when you go through a spiritual awakening, your friendships shift. Not because people change, but because you changed above, and below has to match. Fourth law, polarity. Everything has 2 poles. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Hot and cold, love and hate, light and dark, same substance, different intensities. And here's the secret. You can slide between them, mentally. If something painful happens, most people lock into the negative pole. This is terrible, this is unfair. But Thoth taught, shift your position on the spectrum. Find the lesson, the growth, the hidden gift. Not because you're denying pain, but because you're recognizing that the same event contains both poles, and you choose where to anchor your awareness. Fifth law, rhythm. Everything flows. Tides rise and fall. Pendulums swing. Day becomes night. Winter becomes spring. And your subconscious mind responds to patterns. If you want to program something deeply, create rhythm like brushing your teeth. At first you had to remember, but after enough repetition, it became automatic. Your subconscious recognized the pattern. Now it happens without thought. If you want to manifest something, apply rhythm. Visualize at the same time every day. Meditate at the same hour. Speak your affirmation at the same moment. Your subconscious will recognize the pattern and begin working in the background. Without your conscious effort. Sixth law, cause and effect. Every cause produces an effect. Every action has a consequence. Simple. But here's how Thoth taught it. Live consciously with this law. Before every decision, ask, what effect will this cause create? Does it move me toward what I want or away from it? That single question, asked consistently, transforms your trajectory. Because most people live reactively. They act without thinking, and then wonder why their life stays the same. Thoth said, you can't escape this law, so master it, become conscious of it, and let it work for you instead of against you. Seventh law, gender. Masculine and feminine exist in everything, and this is where creation happens. When masculine and feminine unite physically, they create life. When your inner masculine and feminine unite, you create reality. Your feminine aspect, imagination, emotion, intuition, receptivity. Your masculine aspect, action, will, thought, direction. To manifest, you need both. Imagine the outcome, feel it as real, receive intuitive guidance, then act, move. Direct your will toward it. Unite masculine and feminine, and you give birth to form. These are the 7 laws, and they work. Millions of people use them. But something's missing, because these 7 laws teach you how to create within the game. They say, here are the rules. Play by them, win, and you can. But there's an 8th circle, an 8th law. The one Thoth hid inside the symbol, the one that was removed when the Hermetic principles were formalized. And this law doesn't teach you to play the game, it teaches you to become the board. The 8th law is care, and before you think this is just, be nice, let me stop you. Thoth taught that there are 2 primal forces in existence, love and fear, expansion and contraction, creation and entropy, and everything you generate carries one of those frequencies. Care, genuine care, is the generative force. It's what moves you to act. You only create what you care about, you only move toward what you love. If you don't care, you don't move. You're watching this because you care about this knowledge. You work because you care about sustaining yourself. You love because you care about connection. Care is the engine, the fuel, the force that animates the body. And here's the part that was hidden. Selfish thoughts, thoughts focused only on you, vibrate on the lower mental plane. They have limited range, limited power. But thoughts rooted in genuine care, for others, for the collective, for the whole, vibrate on the higher mental plane. And they have exponentially more force, more penetration, more impact. Thoth knew this, and he knew that if people understood it, they couldn't be controlled through fear, because fear generates selfish action. How do I protect myself? How do I hoard? How do I survive? But care generates expansive action. How do I serve? How do I contribute? How do I love? And reality responds in radically different ways. Here's what happens when you activate the 8th law. You stop manifesting from ego and start manifesting from essence. You stop asking, how do I get money? And start asking, how do I help? And paradoxically, money comes because you've entered resonance with the higher mental plane. You stop seeking validation and start creating from pure love, and paradoxically you're seen because the universe recognizes the frequency of care. The Gnostics understood this too. They taught that the world is ruled by archons, forces that feed on fear and separation. But when you operate from care, you exit their frequency range. You become invisible to them, not because you disappear, but because they can't perceive love. They can only perceive lack. Neuroscience is now discovering what Thoth encoded thousands of years ago. There's a network in your brain called the default mode network. It's the part of you that narrates your life, the voice that says, I am this, I want that, I fear this. It's your ego structure. And when you operate purely from that network, you create from separation, from the illusion that you're a separate self trying to get things from an external world. But when you meditate, when you practice care, presence, love, that network quiets, and another network activates, one that neuroscientists are only beginning to understand, a network that perceives unity instead of separation, wholeness instead of lack. And when you create from that state, you're not manifesting, you're allowing, you're not pulling reality toward you. You're becoming coherent with what already is. The Native Americans understood this. The medicine wheel teaches that you have 4 aspects: north, mind; east, spirit; south, emotion; west, body. Most people live fragmented. Their mind wants one thing. Their emotions pull another direction. Their body resists. But when all 4 directions align, when you care from all aspects, you enter what they called walking in beauty. You don't force creation, you become it. Thoth called this being the law, not obeying it, embodying it. Carl Jung spent decades studying alchemy and Hermeticism, and he discovered something the ancient initiates knew. The process of turning lead into gold wasn't about metal, it was about consciousness. Lead is the ego, dense, heavy, reactive. Gold is the self, luminous, stable, whole. And the process of transmutation requires what Jung called the reconciliation of opposites, masculine and feminine, light and shadow, above and below. But there's one final reconciliation he wrote about late in his life, the reconciliation of self and other, of personal will and universal care. When those unite, you don't just manifest, you co-create with the force that's creating everything. So, here's what you do now. Take the 7 laws you've learned and add the 8th. Before you manifest anything, ask, does this come from fear or from care? Does this serve only me or does it serve the whole? Does this contract or expand? And if it comes from fear, from ego, from contraction, don't abandon the desire. Just shift the frequency. From how do I get to how do I give? And watch what happens. Because when you align all 8 laws, you're not just creating your reality, you're harmonizing with the pattern that's creating all reality, and that pattern isn't random. It's not mechanical, it's conscious, it's intelligent, and it responds to one thing above all else: love, the seed of life. 8 circles, 8 invisible laws governing how formless consciousness becomes material form. Your brain is using this right now, this exact moment. It's taking electrical signals, pure energy, and through geometric code, assembling them into experience, into world, into you. But now you know, you're not just a witness, you're the architect. Thoth gave you the schematic, the circles, the laws, the code, and now you have all 8, not just to manifest, but to transcend, to stop obeying the laws and become them. If something in you recognizes this truth, there's an ancient phrase the initiates used to seal their understanding, not for everyone, only for those who truly saw. Write in the comments, I see the pattern, and notice what shifts inside you when those words leave your fingers. Thoth recognizes those who remember.